I'm Tom, and it's been all but confirmed that Dillian Whyte versus Moses Itauma is set for a Ring magazine card in August. All but confirmed. The reason I say that is because Ring magazine have come out doing their normal speculative kind of, it's reported that, even though we know that they're the ones reporting it, therefore it's going to happen. But Frank Warren obviously hasn't announced it yet. And the reason he won't have announced it yet is because, let's be honest, he was only pulled out of the Ipswich card on Wednesday. So the fact he was pulled out of the Ipswich card on Wednesday, going into this fight, because we know this fight's been rumoured, tells me that it's probably still up in the air because that was very recent. So it's probably just finalising a few things, getting it over the line, but I have no doubts it will be happening. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about Itauma versus Whyte, because I think that's actually a really good fight. I very recently done a video on Dillian Whyte, what should be next for him, you know. And I really thought it was Derek Chisora. I was looking at Derek Chisora or Dillian Whyte saying, right, Dillian Whyte's got two options. He's got Derek Chisora or he's got Lawrence Okolie. And I like both those fights with Dillian Whyte. And perhaps after this Moses Itauma inevitable loss, he can look at a Dillian Whyte fight, a Derek Chisora fight, and sail off into the sunset with all his money. Or even a Lawrence Okolie fight as a bit of a tester to see where Lawrence Okolie is, because he's obviously come up to heavyweight and he's a fucking huge heavyweight. So that's an option, right? But then this sort of got rumoured and all but announced. And actually, I really like it. Look, Whyte needs a comeback fight. Let's not pretend he's had the best comeback fights, because he really hasn't. He needs to have a fight against somebody who's not a gimme fight, and he needs to look good in that fight. But in the same breath, Itauma needs to step up. Moses Itauma, you know, he's this mythological creature at the moment that everyone's spouting rumours about, spouting all these, you know, waxing lyrical about him, and rightly so. I'm one of those people. He's fantastic, and he is the future. You know, he'll be selling out stadiums in a few years, but let's have it right. You know, he's not fought anyone of note, and I recently watched True Geordie react to his recent fight, and I like True Geordie's content. I actually really like his content. So this is by no means hate or anything like that. But True Geordie said that he can't really talk bad about his opponent, and you know that announced on the steam. No, it doesn't. Let's be honest. Did you really know who that fighter was before he fought Moses Itauma? Did you really know who he was? Because a lot of people didn't. Do you know what I mean? That's not somebody who announces him on the scene. I'm not trying to talk bad on Itauma or True Geordie. I love his content, and Itauma is a beast. But he needs a name now. He needs a credible, genuine step up. If he's not going to go the route of Southern area, English, British, Commonwealth, European, which I'd love to see him do, he needs a proper step up. And Dillian Whyte provides that. Because make no mistake, and this is why this fight would be good, when Dillian Whyte gets up for a fight, he gets up for a fight. And we've seen him, which is why he needs a comeback. In his recent performances, he hasn't looked too great, but he hasn't been up for that. He hasn't been up for those fights. Get him up for a fight, and when he's bang up for it, we'll see a good Dillian Whyte. And I'd still pick Itauma to wipe the floor with him, but it provides more options, doesn't it? It provides more to it. So Whyte needs a comeback, and Itauma needs a step up. Also, Whyte is a veteran. You know, for me, he's been a former world title challenger. He's fought AJ, the British level, in a massively entertaining British title fight. He's a veteran of the game. And this is what that is, you know. You step up against somebody who's got experience. It's not necessarily that Whyte's going to bring any new tricks to the table that he hasn't seen in sparring, but he's got experience. He's been on the big stage. He's been in those big fights at the stadiums. You know, he's headlined shows before. He's taken losses and defeats. He's got experience. Itauma won't hit Whyte with anything that he hasn't been hit with before. You know, power, he's been in there with AJ. Size, he's been in there with Fury. Speed, you know, let's look at who he's fought. Itauma's not going to hit Whyte with anything that he's not been hit with before. That's just the fact of the matter. And that's again, no disrespect to Itauma. This is why it's good. Let's see Whyte get in there. How does experience fare against Itauma? Because when Itauma knocks him out inside 6, there you are. Questions answered. He's got that veteran experience. He's used to power. Do you know what I mean? He's used to it all. And one thing that Whyte has that you can't deny is that he used to have that power, that grit, and he was a brawler. Let's see how Itauma does against that. If he can bring it out, if he can bring the brawler out, his power out, the grit. Somebody who's not going to just hit the floor and not get back up. If he can. He'll get up if he can. Do you know what I mean? Let's see how Itauma does against that. And I'm not saying he'll struggle. I'm just saying, like, this is a good test. And then you look at Itauma. Let's look at Itauma. He's a 20-year-old prospect. He's a prodigy. That's what he is. He's 20 years old and he's doing this. He's making waves in the heavyweight division like this. It's crazy. 20-year-old prospect. He has blasted through all of his early fights. No one has stood up against Moses Itauma, but you also need to mention he's not fought anyone of note. So how is he going to do in that? Whyte needs a name to stay in this, to stay in the heavyweight mix, in the heavyweight division. Whyte needs a name, and Itauma needs a step up. So actually, this could quietly be the perfect fight for both fighters. This could headline an event, and that's exactly what they need. Now that Devin Haney, that fight's no longer headlining. Teofimo Lopez versus Devin Haney, that's not going to happen. Well, they need a new headline, and this can headline. This can do that. This is what they need. So what you're looking at is, can power and experience overall power and speed? Or does power and speed overall power and experience? Because that's what this is. Power and experience and Whyte, power and speed versus Itauma clashing. Look, I'm not going to beat around the bush here. I lean more towards Itauma. Obviously, I pick Itauma. Itauma's a freak, a beast. I pick Itauma in this fight. I reckon he gets the job done inside 6. But the question is there, if Dillian Whyte gets up for a fight, brings his A game, who do we see? Because the Whyte we saw fight Fury isn't the best. The Whyte we saw fight, Parker, the Whyte we saw fight AJ when he's bang up for it. Let's see what Whyte turns up. But it's also worth saying, this is the first time we've seen Whyte get fed to the dogs, because that's what this is. This is now a name. This will be a name on Itauma's resume. That's what the point of this fight is. I'm really excited, people. Let me know your thoughts on it all in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like, a comment, subscribe. You know how all this stuff works, people. Peace.